Hello, I'm Sophie D'Souza and welcome to my channel Sophie Stained Glass. Lots of videos about architectural glass with the emphasis on leaded work and some painted work, a little bit of fused work thrown in there. Check out the videos. If you're returning, thank you for your support, and if this is your first time, welcome. Very excited about today's video. Vertical soldering. What? Is that possible? Yes it is, and I'm going to show you how. Yes, it's tricky, but there are a few tips I can give you that will ease your way. And the first one I'll tell you now, use 6337 solder because it heats up and cools down instantly rather than going through that muddy stage. You don't get as many drips because drips is the problem, isn't it? So yes, keep watching and you will never shy away from a vertical soldering job again. And actually, this didn't take me very long. There were 3 ties to tie on, and even with messing about trying to find the right camera angle, it only took me half an hour. So really, it's not a big job. So yes. So these little loose ties here are often why you'll be called upon to solder in situ and hence vertically. So this window is in pretty good shape, but just to make, and I did an in situ repair on it the other day, but just to make sure it lasts as long as humanly possible, I'm going to reattach the ties. As you know, you need a nice clean place to solder, and there are various ways you can take back the surface to a nice clean surface, and I actually quite like to do it with multi-tool. The reason I like to use a multi-tool is because although it might look a bit aggressive, it's not really. And if you try and scrape the surface with a knife, you will actually be applying quite a lot of force in this direction on your window, and the gap is so small you won't get a rasp or something in there. So let's take off our sad little old ties. The next thing I do is I drip proof my window. And that is because no matter what you do, you will get drips. So I like to catch the drips of solder in a little thing like this. And not only will that stop it dripping down the door, you'll be able to reuse this solder that catches here. Right, I've just chopped my tallow thinner because, well, you can imagine. So we'll just start on this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is melt this soldered joint. Here we are. So I've got a nice bright area to solder onto. So there's a lot of tape here, but what I've done is I've still got my little scoop to catch the solder, and I've bent the wire around the steel, and now I'm just pushing the wire into the soldered joint. The idea being that you start to heat up the soldered joint with the hot wire. So you have to be a bit patient for this to happen, because obviously the wire's got to get really hot. Now this solder I'm using is 6337, which doesn't go through its muddy stage. It just heats up and cools down quickly, and that makes it a great choice for vertical soldering. I can see that I'm collecting a bit of solder now on top of the joint. I'm just going to keep going until I'm happy with the amount I've got. If it starts to drip down, I pick it up on the end of the solder. Right, I'm just going to lift off this bit of solder. It's dripped. So I'm going to try and put another bit of solder on the other side. You'll never get the world's neatest joint. And I tend to think more is more in this sort of situation. I'm going to let that cool before I test it, because if I test it while it's still hot, it will just pull off, and I'll move on to the next one. I'm going to do a little solder scoop for dripping solder. And I'm going to melt the solder joint, which should make it bright. It takes quite a while to melt old solder. Because it's dirty. You have to keep your tip clean for a good transfer of heat. Right, that's coming now. Right, okay, so now a bit of flux to keep it clean while we solder it. Okay, a bit more flux, a bit more tallow. Right, I'm hoping that angle is going to be a bit better. So, I'm going to push the wire into the solder on the window to start to heat it up. Then I'm going to add the extra solder. Now when I remove this soldering iron, it's going to make the wire pop away. So I'm just going to hold it in place till it sets. Now let's just, I'm going to go back to the first one and we're going to test that it's soldered on okay. And it is, that's fine. I will just pick up this lump here. There. We don't want a big lump. There we are. Okay. Lovely. And we'll do the same again. We will heat up the joint, which will help us get back to some nice bright solder. There it is. I've got my tinned wire. I will just twist in place and stick down. So you want the masking tape to be holding the wire against the soldered joint. Got my little bit of tallow. Do my little bit of, there we go. Now, same again. Hold your wire against the soldered joint and it should start to melt it. Add a bit of your solder and find somewhere to put it down. So when I take this soldering iron away, I want to keep the wire from moving from the joint. I really hope you can see this. And when I think the joint is cold, then I can let go. Okay. Now don't be surprised if sometimes they don't take first time, but you know what to do. Just go back, do them again. But you can see these have taken. And I haven't made a mess and it's worked. We like that, don't we? So hopefully you can see that these joints are now soldered. These wires. I mean, obviously it is hard to see because of their position. So I'm just going to put a bit of patina on these wires to darken them up. So there we have it, vertical soldering made easy. I hope you can see that it is quite possible. It's not too tricky. There are a few things you can do to ease your way and yeah, job's a good one. So thanks for watching and please like, comment and subscribe.